how do you integrate or hold or orient yourself to other realms which seem so alien and yet familiar?
Yeah. I don't know if I have an answer for that, but what comes to mind is that maybe there are things that cannot be integrated fully. How do you integrate a mystical experience when you have to go back to work on Monday? You will still have to go back to work on Monday. You will still get angry and pissed because of the, I don't know, taxes or traffic or whatever. You will still have arguments with your family. So I think that there are experiences that they cannot be fully integrated because of the nature of the experience. So if we're talking about an infinite experience and we're trying to integrate in a finite being as we are and limited beings as we are individually, we cannot contain and hold everything all the time. Maybe those experiences can only be fully manifested when we are there, but then when we come back here, we can have the inspiration, we can have the memory, the distant memory of those realms, and that's the most that we can aspire to, and maybe that will remain as an inspiration to move our lives into that direction, knowing that maybe we will never reach that again, or that we will not live in that reality forever. So
Yeah, I think something that comes up for me there is that, like you said, it's like, how does one cannot sort of contain the infinite within the finite. And I'm thinking back to what you said about derealization. It's like, well, you're not trying to address the problem of the derealization. You're in ways like addressing the person who's experienced it, their relationship with that experience and how it's playing out in their life. In a way, it's like, how do we then focus on our relationship to this thing that will forever be uncertain and like beyond our capacity to fully understand or to apply in our lives, and there's maybe a leveraging point there to focus on the relationship to the unintegratable in a way. Yeah,
absolutely, and I like very much that you make this connection, because there is a connection with the topic of the realization and the personalization. At some level, the experience of not being yourself, or that the world is not what it is, it's what spiritual traditions talk about. That you're you, but you're not really you. You're something else, and the world is the world, but it's a veil, and there's something else beyond that. So, there's some spiritual truth, if you want, in the perception of a depersonalized or derealized world. And maybe that is part of what's happening. I don't know. But there's layers in which we can relate to anything, to problems that maybe we relate to that in a different way, and then it's not a problem. It's something else, so yeah.
So the second, I think these are actually two totally different questions, but they came together as one, which I think is interesting, is they say, and I'm going to read this, word for word: downloads. What about these? Again, how do you think I'm going to change this a bit. How do we integrate these into our understanding of the world? I once had an hours-long overview of interspecies interdependence. I'd never once thought about this or anything similar to it or read about it before that journey. I learned a great deal, certainly, and it without a doubt changed how I looked at other animals, insects, and plants since. There's the awe factor, of course, but how to fathom where this comes from is challenging at best to understand. I suppose what these both have in common is both as in the question from before, is the otherworldly nature of these. The extraordinary wide-angle views or perspectives are much easier to understand and integrate into this reality. So I guess I'll bring it back to the beginning of that question, like downloads. And I anyone who's had like a big psychedelic experience, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, you get these like downloads of things. How do we work with these?
Yeah. Different things come to mind. One of them is similar to what we've been talking about. Sometimes we cannot integrate everything that we download. Yeah, and if you allow me to make a silly joke, or some of us are from this generation that some decades ago we had Napster and these sort of things that you could download music. Yeah. And a friend of mine made the joke one day that I don't listen to music anymore, I download music. Yeah, so our hard drives, they were filled with albums, the full discography of everybody, but then you don't go on to listen and enjoy the music anymore. No? So sometimes the integration, the healing, the transformation is not in the amount of the download, it's more on the quality, or to focus on something that will be really fruitful. Again, how you integrate the infinite into the finite. Well, maybe we need to focus on something. Yeah. And I think this, and something that Stan Grof said regarding the outcomes of psychedelic therapy. He said in one of his works that the result of a psychedelic experience, the outcome, doesn't have to do so much with the quantity of information that we access or the quantity of psychological material that we process, but it has to do more with the quality of how we end the experience. So the tone in which you end your experience, that's what's going to somehow determine how the overall memory of the journey looks like and how integration will be. So then the focus is not so much on having to integrate and remember everything, is of landing gently, safely, and finishing the journey on, as much as possible, a good tone. It doesn't mean that you need to be happy. You could end up on a sad note, but if it's an embodied, a stable, a kind of, grounded sadness, most likely it's going to be much easier to integrate than if we end up with, a very intense emotion that doesn't allow us to be with what's going on. So, I don't think that we should focus so much on quantity, but more on quality of our psychedelic journeys, and also be humble. We are just human beings, and these are just experiences. So we should not pretend that one single experience is going to radically change me and I'm going to become somebody radically different and be free of all my suffering and become the best version of myself right after an ayahuasca experience. No, these are tools that we can use along the path that can help us to be more conscious, more aware, be more compassionate, to treat ourselves and others with more kindness, and try to live our lives with as much meaning as possible. And there's no much more than that. And psychedelics are tools to help us in the path, but I don't think that we should focus so much on having to grasp everything. Because in the end, we're limited beings. This last Indiana Jones movie, or I don't know if the last or the previous one, something like this happened. No, like the bad guy wanted to download all the knowledge from these aliens or whatever, and what happened to him? He went crazy and exploded, because we cannot hold infinity inside of us. So just try to live our lives in the most meaningful way. I think that that's more than enough.
When do I own integration work? I do lots of recollection and journaling, trying to save the precious memories and experiences, and then I revisit those seeings and feelings repeatedly over the years, and I try to find more meanings in them. I also try to pay attention to where things land in my body, so kind of beyond words and images. That's a bit harder, I find. But what about all those myriad things and experiences that happen on any given trip which we don't remember? They're inside of us somewhere, but I'm not sure how to unlock them, or if the basic rule should be you only remember bits you're supposed to remember.
Yeah, I would say that the person that wrote this is doing an amazing work. It seems that there's a lifetime of journeys that have been recorded and paid attention to, and he or she is definitely doing their work. So, congratulations for that. And also, the fact that there's much more that we cannot grasp, and that many things have happened, and the vastness of the inner landscapes is awesome, and maybe that is also part of what psychedelics teaches. I think it was Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel that said that awe is the beginning of spirituality, or the doorway to spirituality. And I think it's a really powerful feeling to be in the presence of awe and see that we cannot grasp everything, and that we will never be able to do that, no matter what you do. We're always going to be dust specks in an infinite universe. and that's who we are. And and to be able to be comfortable with that, and to also experience that awe as a gift. I've seen so much that I cannot remember, that I cannot understand, and to be okay with that, I think that is part of the psychedelic experience as well. Yeah.